Moscow is pleased by your commitment to finalizing these borders, which secures our shared victory against the crumbling Ukrainian state. We will immediately deploy our legal teams to map the new frontier along the Dnieper. Ensuring your control over Lviv and Cherniv Sea is recognized before the West can react. Let us move swiftly to sign the partition treaty and solidify our dominance in Eastern Europe. Moscow accepts your signature with satisfaction, marking the formal beginning of our shared dominion over Eastern Europe. With the Dnieper line now legally established, we will immediately coordinate the integration of resources to withstand the inevitable Western sanctions. This treaty secures our strategic depth and proves that our alliance is the true future of the continent.
Warsaw acknowledges your greeting, but remains deeply alarmed by your rapid annexation of Slovakia and the western Ukrainian territories, which now share a direct border with our southern provinces. Given your recent demands upon the Czech Republic, Poland cannot entertain any proposition that threatens our sovereignty or suggests further revisionist expansion toward our borders. We are prepared to discuss strict non-aggression guarantees and the security of our shared frontier. But any hint of territorial ambition will result in immediate full mobilization and a formal appeal to NATO for protection. Warsaw categorically rejects this insulting offer, as Krakow and Silesia are the historic heart of our nation and will never be sold for any sum. Your pattern of demanding territory from neighbors after invading Slovakia and Ukraine confirms our deepest fears about your expansionist intentions. We consider these talks terminated and are immediately placing our southern forces on high alert to defend our borders against any further aggression. Warsaw will not surrender Krakow or Silesia to your threats, as our army stands ready to defend every inch of Polish soil against your aggression. Your demand for territory confirms you are an enemy of our sovereignty, and we immediately invoke Article 4 consultations with NATO to secure our borders. Consider this diplomatic channel closed. Any further advance will be met with full military resistance.
Moscow summit finalizes partition treaty. In a historic ceremony at the Kremlin, representatives of Greater Hungary and Russia signed the Treaty of Dnieper, formally demarcating the new borders following the partition of Ukraine. The agreement solidifies Hungarian sovereignty over Lviv, Chernivtsi, and Transcarpathia while granting Russia control over the eastern industrial basin. This treaty effectively cements the Russo-Hungarian alliance, creating a unified bloc that defies Western sanctions and reshapes the geopolitical landscape of Eastern Europe. Covert operatives infiltrate Vojvodina. Under strict orders of deniability, Greater Hungary deploys a network of political operatives into the Serbian province of Vojvodina. These agents begin distributing propaganda materials and funding local cultural organizations to sway public opinion toward Hungarian reunification. While Belgrade remains unaware of the scale of the operation, whispers of unrest begin to circulate in border towns as locals debate the benefits of joining the resurgent Magyar realm versus maintaining Serbian sovereignty. Serbian intelligence raises alarm. Belgrade security services detect unusual activity in Vojvodina, identifying foreign-funded agitators, stirring ethnic tensions among the Hungarian minority. Although the source is not definitively traced to Budapest, the Serbian government issues a diplomatic warning regarding interference in internal affairs. President Vučić orders increased surveillance in the north, suspecting that Greater Hungary's recent territorial ambitions may soon target Serbian soil, despite previous rejections of land sales. EU freezes Hungarian assets. Following the formal partition of Ukraine and the signing of the defense pact with Russia, the European Union enacts the most severe sanctions package in its history against Greater Hungary. All Hungarian assets within EU jurisdictions are frozen, and trade barriers are erected along the Austrian and Romanian borders. The Hungarian forint dips sharply before stabilizing due to emergency currency swaps arranged with Moscow, signaling the nation's full economic pivot away from the West. Poland fortifies southern border. Alarmed by Greater Hungary's aggressive demands for Krakow and Silesia, Poland accelerates the construction of defensive fortifications along its southern frontier. Heavy concrete bunkers and anti-tank obstacles appear overnight near Katowice, transforming the border into a formidable military barrier. Warsaw declares a state of heightened readiness, explicitly stating that any cross-border incident will be treated as an act of war requiring immediate NATO intervention. Energy pipelines rerouted to Budapest. As part of the newly signed partition treaty, Russia begins rerouting major natural gas pipelines directly through Ukrainian territory, now controlled by Greater Hungary. This strategic infrastructure shift ensures Budapest receives discounted energy supplies, bypassing traditional transit routes through Slovakia and Poland. The move strengthens Hungary's energy independence while simultaneously weakening the leverage of Western-aligned neighbors who previously controlled the flow of Russian gas. Pro-Hungarian protests erupt in Subotica, spurred by weeks of covert agitation. Hundreds of ethnic Hungarians gather in the streets of Subotica, waving Magyar flags and chanting slogans demanding autonomy or annexation by Greater Hungary. Serbian police move to disperse the crowds, resulting in minor clashes and several arrests. The incident draws international attention, with Budapest issuing a statement expressing concern for the rights of Hungarians abroad, subtly escalating tensions without direct military involvement. NATO reinforces eastern flank. In response to the solidified Russo-Hungarian axis and the instability in the Balkans, NATO announces the deployment of additional multinational battle groups to Poland and Romania. American armored units arrive in Gdansk, while British troops reinforce the Carpathian passes. The alliance sends a clear message that further expansion by Greater Hungary will be met with collective defense measures, raising the stakes for any potential conflict in Central Europe. Serbia expelled suspected agents. Following the unrest in Subotica, Serbian authorities launch a crackdown on suspected foreign operatives, expelling 12 individuals linked to Hungarian intelligence networks. Belgrade accuses Greater Hungary of violating international law through covert subversion, recalling its ambassador for consultations. The diplomatic rift widens as Serbia begins mobilizing reserve units near the Vojvodina border, preparing for the possibility of hybrid warfare or limited incursions. BRICS reviews Hungarian application. The BRICS bloc holds a special session to review Greater Hungary's application for membership, with Russia and China strongly advocating for acceptance, while Brazil and South Africa express reservations about admitting a European nation embroiled in conflict. The strategic value of expanding the group's influence outweighs their concerns. Preliminary votes suggest Hungary will be invited to join as an associate member, granting access to alternative financial systems and shielding it from the full impact of Western sanctions. Hungarian armored divisions shift south. Satellite imagery reveals that elements of the Hungarian 1st Armored Division have begun redeploying from the Ukrainian border toward the Serbian frontier. Though officially described as routine training exercises, the movement of heavy tanks and artillery near Vojvodina raises alarms in Belgrade and Brussels. Observers note the positioning mirrors the tactics used prior to the Slovak and Ukrainian invasions, suggesting a potential escalation. Ultimatum delivered to Belgrade. In a closed-door meeting, the Hungarian ambassador presents a confidential note to the Serbian Foreign Ministry, outlining security concerns regarding the treatment of ethnic Hungarians in Vojvodina. While no formal ultimatum is issued publicly, the tone implies that Greater Hungary expects immediate concessions on autonomy or face consequences. Serbian leaders interpret this as a prelude to intervention, placing their military on high alert and seeking guarantees from Russia, which remains ambiguously silent. Cross-border skirmishes reported. Minor armed clashes erupt along the Hungarian-Serbian border near Horgosh, involving unidentified paramilitary groups and Serbian border guards. Both sides exchange fire, resulting in casualties, though neither government officially claims responsibility for the attackers. Greater Hungary calls for an investigation into aggression against Hungarians, while Serbia denounces the incident as a provocation designed to justify military action. The region teeters on the brink of open conflict. Decision point. The Vojvodina crisis. Tensions between Greater Hungary and Serbia reach a boiling point as military concentrations grow on both sides of the border. With covert operations exposed, sanctions biting, and NATO watching closely, Budapest faces a critical choice. Escalate to full-scale invasion to reclaim Vojvodina. Pursue a diplomatic off-ramp to stabilize the region. Or hold the line and risk a prolonged standoff. The world waits to see if the Magyar hammer will strike south once more.
Belgrade demands an immediate explanation for the troop buildup on our border and the recent violent incidents. We seek a peaceful resolution, but warn that any violation of our sovereignty will be met with total resistance. Does Greater Hungary intend to honor our friendship or repeat the tragedies of Slovakia and Ukraine? Belgrade acknowledges your concern for ethnic Hungarians, but we categorically deny any systematic violence against them and view your troop movements near Horgosh as a direct threat to our sovereignty. We cannot accept military posturing under the guise of humanitarian protection, especially given the fate that befell Slovakia and Ukraine. If Greater Hungary truly seeks peace, you must immediately withdraw your armored divisions to their home garrisons so we can discuss minority rights without the shadow of invasion.
Moscow observes that Belgrade's refusal to grant autonomy to ethnic Hungarians justifies Greater Hungary's defensive posture along the border. We stand firmly by our mutual defense pact and advise Serbia that resisting legitimate humanitarian concerns will only lead to further isolation from our emerging Eurasian bloc. Let us resolve this matter swiftly, for Russia prefers stable allies over chaotic conflicts on our southern flank.
Belgrade rejects Moscow's interference in our internal affairs and refuses to accept military threats as a valid form of humanitarian concern. We demand the immediate withdrawal of your armored divisions from the Horgosh sector before any discussion on minority rights can proceed, as sovereignty cannot be negotiated under the shadow of invasion. If these forces do not retreat to their home garrisons within 24 hours, Serbia will consider this an act of war and respond with full mobilization.
Moscow warns Belgrade that issuing ultimatums to our ally, while ignoring the plight of ethnic Hungarians, is a dangerous miscalculation of the current balance of power. We stand ready to honor our mutual defense pact if Serbia chooses escalation, but we strongly advise you to withdraw your threat and negotiate autonomy immediately to avoid becoming the next example of Western failure. The window for a peaceful resolution within our Eurasian sphere is closing rapidly, and further defiance will be met with unified consequences.
Belgrade rejects your thinly veiled threat of annihilation and affirms that Serbia will never surrender its sovereign territory to foreign aggression. Our military is fully mobilized along the Vojvodina border, and we are prepared to resist any invasion with total force regardless of your alliance with Moscow. We demand the immediate withdrawal of your armored divisions from Horgosh within the stated 24 hours, or we will consider this an act of war and respond accordingly.
Moscow reiterates that Serbia's refusal to negotiate autonomy, while issuing ultimatums to our ally, is a strategic error that invites unified military consequences. We stand fully prepared to activate our mutual defense pact and support Greater Hungary's operations should Belgrade choose war over a peaceful settlement within our sphere. The time for hesitation has passed. Serbia must immediately cease its mobilization and accept humanitarian protections for Hungarians to avoid total isolation and defeat.
Belgrade stands unmoved by Moscow's threats and reaffirms that Vojvodina will never be ceded to foreign ambition under any pretext. Our forces remain fully mobilized to defend every inch of Serbian soil. And we warn that crossing our border will ignite a war you cannot win. We offer one final chance for peace. Withdraw your armored divisions immediately or face the full consequences of your aggression. Belgrade unequivocally rejects your conditional offer, as Vojvodina is the inseparable heart of Serbia and will never be traded for cash or withdrawn troops. We view this proposal as a transparent attempt to legitimize the same annexationist aggression that destroyed Slovakia and Ukraine. And we will not negotiate our sovereignty under any circumstances. Since you refuse to withdraw your armored divisions without territorial concessions, we cannot grant. Serbia considers this diplomatic avenue closed and prepares to meet your invasion with total military resistance.
Moscow notes that Belgrade has exhausted all diplomatic options by refusing reasonable autonomy for ethnic Hungarians while threatening our ally with war. Since Serbia chooses isolation and conflict over a peaceful settlement within our sphere, Russia fully endorses Greater Hungary's right to take necessary measures to protect its people. We stand ready to provide immediate logistical and military support as outlined in our Mutual Defense Pact, ensuring that any resistance is swiftly overcome to secure stability on our southern flank.
Belgrade accepts your framing of this tragedy as a declaration of war by Hungary, for we have offered every peaceful avenue while you mass tanks on our frontier. Our soldiers are ready to die for Vojvodina just as their ancestors did. And we will turn your invasion into a bloody stalemate that drains your resources. Do not expect Russia to save you when the cost of conquering Serbia becomes far higher than you anticipated.
Moscow acknowledges Belgrade's stubborn defiance and confirms that our strategic reserves are now fully authorized to support Greater Hungary's imminent operations. We will immediately secure the northern flank and provide the necessary artillery and air cover to ensure your advance into Vojvodina succeeds without prolonged attrition. The era of Serbian resistance ends today, as our combined forces reshape the Balkans to secure our shared southern frontier.
Belgrade hears your final attempt to shift blame, but history will record that Hungary chose invasion the moment tanks rolled toward Horgosh. Our soldiers are dug in across Vojvodina and ready to make every street a fortress against your so-called liberation. We accept this state of war and will fight until our sovereignty is secure or our nation lies in ruins.
Moscow confirms that Serbia's refusal to negotiate has left no alternative but military action to secure the rights of ethnic Hungarians. Our strategic reserves are fully mobilized to support Greater Hungary's advance, ensuring the rapid stabilization of Vojvodina under our shared sphere. The West will find no opportunity to intervene as we decisively reshape the southern frontier today.
Belgrade has heard your final justifications, but we will not surrender Vojvodina to the same fate as Slovakia or Ukraine. Our soldiers are entrenched and ready to turn every village into a fortress against your so-called liberation. Serbia accepts this state of war and will fight until our sovereignty is secure or our nation lies in ruins.